Hi, I'm Tori, and today I'm going to be reviewing this bind-up I have of the first 3 books in the Miss Bianca series by Margery Sharp. This is the series that the Disney movie The Rescuers was based on, but either it's based on events from later stories, or they just very loosely took a few of the characters and made their own story, because none of these 3 stories is remotely similar to the movie. I had so much fun reading these stories. They have the most darling illustrations by Garth Williams, who is one of my favorite children's illustrators. And this was just such a sweet, whimsical book that also had quite a bit of sass to it. I would say that the biggest difference between this book and the movie is that instead of working for the Rescue Aid Society, the mice have organized a Prisoners Aid Society. So their job is not necessarily to go rescue poor sad orphans, but to go try to cheer up prisoners who are locked away and will never see the light of day again. Another difference is that Miss Bianca is a very elegant, important person who is just dripping with prestige and refinement, and who every character in the book acknowledges is greatly superior. And she's not really arrogant about it, but she does know that she's from a higher class than most of the people she interacts with. The first book in this bind-up is called The Rescuers. It was published in 1959, and it is the first time that these characters meet each other. It follows Miss Bianca, Bernard, and a mouse named Niles, and they have to travel to the Black Castle, where no mouse has ever been able to reach before, to cheer a prisoner. And so that first story is very sweet and very charming, and it's Miss Bianca's first foray into the Prisoners' Aid Society, so you kind of see her adjusting to a rougher way of life. And I liked it. It was really cute. The second story was so much more interesting, though. By the second story, Miss Bianca has become chairwoman of the Prisoners' Aid Society, and she hears about a poor orphan girl who has been kidnapped by an evil duchess. And this story was just so creative and whimsical. The Duchess was like a cartoon villain. She was so evil and so much fun to hate. And Miss Bianca started to show a lot more spunk in this book and kind of question the status quo and go out on her own. And she did make some mistakes and learn some lessons. And because of how evil the Duchess was, this book felt kind of darker, but then also more whimsical too, because the way that she was evil was more like a cartoon and less like real life. And then the third book kind of kept that momentum going. It was called The Turret, and it was published in 1963, and it had that same kind of fun energy to it. And in this book, we're back to rescuing a prisoner, but there's a twist, because this prisoner is actually a villain from one of the previous stories. I had so much fun reading this bind-up. These are children's stories, and I can see that children would enjoy them, but I feel like there's even more to talk about as an adult. I have so many questions and theories about Margery Sharp's worldviews and what she thought of, it was the early 60s, it would be starting to be like more civil rights, feminist movements. I kind of want to know how she reacted to that. You almost see it in this book, and I really want to talk about the way that Margery Sharp wrote this book and what her worldview might be. So if you want to read these stories, I highly recommend that you go do that, then come back to hear my opinions. I was so fascinated by the way that Miss Bianca was portrayed in these books, because she was so elegant and refined. And there's never a moment throughout these books where you forget how much better at everything Miss Bianca is, and the things that she's not good at aren't really necessary skills, and she can get someone else to do those. And especially in the first book, she comes across as so helpless, and she's a proper refined lady of the upper class, and she doesn't need to know how to do these silly tasks that other peasants know. And that tone never really goes away, and it's always acknowledged to be the correct viewpoint. But at the same time, Miss Bianca becomes more and more daring. Even in the first book, she's off making friends with the cat and doing other things that scare the male mice and that they think she shouldn't have to do. And then by the second book, she proposes a whole mission just for the women's branch of the Prisoners' Aid Society. And they're going to go do this daring feat, and when they come back, they expect the men to provide refreshments. And so it's this really interesting balance of thinking that a proper lady should be very delicate and refined and should be taken care of, but also that she's strong and brave and can go do these physically dangerous things and be a hero, just like the men can. And I also think that Margery Sharp must have had some very bad experience with a gym or fitness instructor, because she hates the games mistress so much, and her crusade to get the mice population in shape is portrayed as this just ridiculous goal. So I definitely think that the author had some personal feelings about that. And then Bernard's character is very interesting too, because he works so tirelessly and he's never appreciated for anything. His name gets left off the first medal. He seems like he's just doggedly working and never getting anything out of it. And it seems like that was a very careful and deliberate choice too. And the reader is supposed to feel that Bernard deserves more than he gets, and he's working so hard and doing so much and not getting any rewards. And he should get something out of this. And clearly what he wants is Miss Bianca, but it's also presented as a valid choice for her not to marry him. And she does very clearly have feelings for him. In the first book, she goes back and forth a lot. She considers marrying him, she considers settling down, but she keeps changing her mind about it. And that's presented as a little bit wishy-washy, but also as a valid thing for her to do. And then by the end of that book, she's decided that she doesn't want to get married, that there are lots of other things that she wants to do instead. But then we also do still keep acknowledging that she does have feelings for Bernard, and she might choose him later. Though it was interesting, in the third book, when she met Sir Hector, she definitely admired him, and he might become a love interest too. So I really like that they're saying that women can choose not to marry or put off marrying and change their minds about it later. It's not some definite thing you have to do, because this was the early 60s. Women were very much expected to marry and become housewives, and they had a fairly rigid role of things that they were expected to do. And I love just how much freedom Miss Bianca has to play with these roles and see what she really wants out of life. These books just have such interesting things to say about what femininity should look like and what it means to be a successful woman. I also think that the whole premise of these books has a lot to say about our society's justice system. The whole reason for this society that everyone agrees is a good thing is to comfort prisoners, the people who have been sent to jail who have done bad things in their life. We don't focus on that too much in the first book, and then in the second book we're rescuing an orphan, not a prisoner. But by the third book, when we're dealing with Mandrake, we're talking about his redemption, and it's absolutely clear that he was a horrible person who did horrible things. But Miss Bianca believes so firmly that he should have a chance to reform and to change his life and to do things for other people, and we have so much invested in seeing that he is capable of that. It makes me think that Margery Sharp had a lot of very strong opinions about how prisoners should be treated and how jails should work. And it's so interesting to see these very strong social messages put into this children's book. This series has many more books in it, and I cannot wait to see how these social justice and feminist issues keep coming up, and I really want to see what happens to these characters and how prisoners are treated and how romance is treated, and I cannot wait to read more of these incredible books.